Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. We want to let you know that we have once again been honored with a nomination for the Hockey Podcast of the Year via the Sports Podcasting Awards. And all you need to do to help us is go to ourkidsplayhockey.com and click on the Vote Now button. It asks you a couple questions. You're in and you're out, and you have voted for us for Hockey Podcast of the Year. I want to thank you all for being a wonderful, wonderful audience and helping us get to this stature of hockey podcasting, because we've done it as a family, as the hockey friends and families around the world. Thanks so much and enjoy this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world. Welcome to another episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. My name is Lee Elias, and I'm joined by my two very good friends, Christie Burns and Mike Benelli, on what's going to be another fantabulous episode for you, parents, coaches, and players out there. Today's topic is one that is near and dear to my heart. It's also near and dear to Christie's heart and Mike's heart, and it's creating coachable kids. Now, before we jump into this, let's talk about what it means to be coachable. And I want you to think about this at home. What do you think about when you hear, oh, my kid needs to be coachable? Because there's a lot of misconceptions about what it actually means to be coachable, all right? The common definition of this is usually the kid listens, the coach talks, and that's it. And it's just not that simple. This is a two-way road between parents and kids, coaches and kids, kids and parents, kids and coaches, and so forth and so on. It's also about letting kids be creative and letting kids be accountable and creating an environment of learning. To me, that's what coachable means. We're going to jump into this right now. The first thing we want to talk about is ways coaches can create coachable kids. And for that, I'm going to throw it right to Mike Benelli, the coach here. Nothing against the mom yet, Christy. We will get to that. But Mike, the first thing I have written down here when we're talking about creating coachable kids is to establish trust. It's the fundamental element. It's the fundamental foundation of any relationship. So I think before you can even talk about coachable anything, there has to be a trust between the player and the coach. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you have to create an environment for your players to understand that you're on their side. You want them to develop. You have to be. You can't just say, "Hey, I'm available all the time," and then brush them off. You have to be able to be approachable. Speak to them in the proper terms. Know age appropriately who you're talking to, and what the age is, and like we've had a lot of themes here, right? Work with the parents to help them work with their children,
right?
And I think if you're communicating and you're open and you're honest, it goes a long way into creating coachable kids on your teams.
Well, and that dives right into the second thing, which is great communication. And again, this is a skill that some coaches really have well, other coaches don't. And in either way, there's always room to learn. I do want to jump to Christy real quick because, Mike, you brought up a great point about, coaches have to interact with the parents a bit. So, Christy, from a coaching standpoint, meaning coach to a parent, what are some of the things you think that make a good coach to being making coachable kids as the parent of those kids?
All right, we'll go back to the definition of coachable. I mean, simply, it's just the ability to be coached. And I think, in my opinion, attitude has a lot more to do with it than an athletic ability.
Right.
And I talked about this last night at dinner with the kids because they were saying, "Hey, Mom, what topic are you talking about tomorrow on the podcast?" I said, "Oh, we're going to do coachability." And I looked at them. I was very honest. I said, no matter where you were, what level of hockey you play, no matter what coaches always complimented both of you to me and my husband about your kid is so coachable. And I threw it back at them. I go, why do you think that was? And they said, well, I think it's because we really appreciated when they took interest in us, cared enough about us to want to correct whatever it is that we weren't getting. And we didn't always perfect it. And as Joey said this last night, sometimes, the coach would see that I was doing a drill wrong and, he pointed out, he'd yell at me. And I looked at it as constructive criticism. Hey, this coach cares enough about me that he wants me to fix what I'm doing wrong. And because I didn't always get it right. I didn't always perfect it, but I tried. And I think that's why the coaches always said to you, hey, your kid is so coachable, because he tried. He had that willingness and the acceptance. He was okay if you told him what he was doing wrong. And he looked at it more in a positive way. So I really think attitude really comes into play here. Parents can play a big role here.
Well, the first thing I want to say is that I am honored that this show has made it to dinner conversations at your house. I think that that's a huge deal. I mean, there's levels of success, but I'm going to tell you, being at your dining room table is a huge one for me. I don't know how Mike feels about that. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, you got two hockey kids at the table. What else are you going to talk about?
Get the answers out of them.
But I do want to echo something you just said, and this is for the coaches listening to the show. You said that your kids felt that they cared about them.
Yeah.
And that's a tricky thing sometimes, because in my experience, most coaches, and I'm giving benefit of the doubt here a little bit, but most coaches do care about the kids they're coaching. You don't make it long in coaching if you don't actually care at the youth levels, all right? The pro levels, it's a little bit different because players become assets in a lot of ways. But in the youth level, you have to care. And I think that learning as a coach how to show that, because sometimes coaches do care, but they have a hard time showing that, right? And this is why it's so important to learn different ways to coach different people. Again, in my experience, and Mike, I want you to tell the experience of coaching a little bit older kids too. Remember, I'm coaching Adams, I'm coaching Mites, right? And it's funny because we have these two brothers on the team they're very disruptive of practice. They have a hard time sitting still and a hard time listening, and it really frustrated me. And my mindset didn't go to like, oh, I hate these kids, I need them off the ice. It's okay, what do I need to do? What solutions do I need to find to help these kids learn? Because at Adam level, Mite level, you got to learn, right? You got to learn to skate, the basic fundamentals. So I remember that actually their father came up to me because they could see that I was struggling a little bit in terms of just getting them focused. And he said to me, what do we need to do? Which was, by the way, parents, the greatest thing he could have done, because now I can work with him and I don't have to worry about, okay, if I punish this kid or I do this or how I punish them, is it gonna affect? So we talked, they're excited. We learned that we had to split the brothers up, how to speak to them, and it turned into a wonderful environment. And these two kids are really fun to be around now. But I remember that initial being frustrated, and I said, I have to learn a different way to coach these kids. That's my job as the coach, right? When you get older and testosterone or hormones come into it, Mike, that changes the whole game, right? I haven't quite reached the coaching age yet with the kids where they're talking back to me too much. I have dealt with that in pro hockey. Again, it's a totally different monster. But tell me a little bit about the youth, tweens, coming of age kids, and how you deal with that kind of pushback as a coach.
Yeah, I mean, well, and it's certainly a little different too as a parent and a coach, and as a 23-year-old coach. I mean, because like even me, I'm still not used to the eye rolls and like the like, oh God, this guy's here he goes again. And you
How about the pouting?
And the pouting, and you have to, and that's my own kid. So I think you really have to see what age you're working with.
Right.
When I work with other coaches, my biggest thing is learn, and we all have to learn this, right? That everybody can be communicated to differently, and you can approach kids differently. I mean, I remember one 8U kid I was working with, and I used to come in and I'd be standing, over the kids, and I'm on the ice, and I try to have a lot of energy. Like I'm out there, and I'm like, we got to get going. Everybody move to the corner, skate. And this girl just every time she came to my station, crying, just a river of tears right off the ice. And it was the same kind of experience. Parent came to me. I'm like, listen, we're trying to, I don't understand what's going on. Am I saying something wrong? Am I afraid? She goes, no, she's just, you're almost overbearing. Like you're too much energy for her. And I had to learn that when she came into the station, that's really where that ability to take a knee, you don't have to yell and scream, just find a way to communicate with the kids. And then that they're looking at you.
Right.
You're looking at them. There's communication going on. But each age group that we work with, again, I'm working with 14U players right now, gaining their attention. The old saying, right? Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
So you can have all the greatest things in the world out there, but if they don't know that you care about them and you're not communicating with them prior to just being on the ice, one of the big things about communication is you can't just say, okay, we're on the ice and communicating. The ice session ends, and Zamboni leaves, and you don't speak to anyone. You have to have that. You have to build that rapport and that trust with your kids throughout the season. And
we're talking about a lot of the foundations that create coachable environments, I think, right now, which is from a coaching standpoint, something that's very, very important. It's funny. We have another kid on the team. Again, dealing with youth is totally different to me. It's easy for me to forget. I'm a towering, loud, dominant individual to a lot of these kids. Mike, as you just said, I have to put myself in their position. That's why, again, we're going to talk about this later in the show. We're going to go over several tips and tactics to make or traits of coachable kids. But, I had a kid one time he was swinging his stick like a tomahawk, right? It was getting dangerous. So I said, actually very calmly, I said, I won't say his name, but I said, hey, buddy, come over here. I said, look, this is the penalty box, okay? And I had him sit down in the penalty box. It was very calm. I said, this is why you're sitting here, because you can't do that. And he started crying in the penalty box. And I felt horrible. I was like, no. Now, what's funny is I had him come out. I said, listen, you understand why you were in the penalty box, right? And he said, yes. And his dad came over, and I was like, oh, no. His dad said, listen, you did the right thing. He's a very emotional kid. What can we do? And again, that communication is making his kid more coachable. Now, perfect time for a transition here. And Christie, this is where you get to shine, right? We're talking about how coaches can create coachable kids, but there's also a reliability on the parents to create coachable kids, which you did magnificently, right? But the trick is this is a two-way street. Coaches have to work with parents and in turn work with the players to make a coachable environment. So I think that when it comes to parenting, there's a few things I have written down here, Christie, that I want you to comment on and add your own. One is teaching your kids not to fear failing. And this is a big problem that I see, not just in sports, but in life in general, is that there's a massive fear of failing. And, the first rule I teach kids, whenever I teach anyone to skate or at a youth level, I say the first rule of hockey is it's okay to fall down. This is a safe environment to fail. I think that is a fundamental lesson as a parent and a coach to teach kids to make them coachable. Because if they're not fearing failure, they are in turn going to want to learn. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And it gets back to the attitude too. Right. You got to encourage that in your kids that it's okay to fail. That's the best way to learn, is you learn from your mistakes in hockey and in life. As you say, we're learning life lessons here. The other thing with parents is it's really important to be supportive of. They might feel badly after they get off the coach is just, harping on me, criticizing me all the time. And they want you to side with them, to join them. Mom, isn't that a horrible coach? Right. He's picking on me all the time. And don't fall into that tendency to want to join them and kind of,
commiserate. Yeah.
Commiserate. That's a good word. Yeah. Don't commiserate with them. Separate yourself from them and say, well, what did the coach tell you? Well, he says my head's down the whole time, that I need to look up more. Isn't that ridiculous? No, you know what? It's really not ridiculous. You ought to listen to that coach, right? And you're going to become a better skater. You're not going to get checked as much. You're not going to be, you're not going to lose control of that puck as much. Keep your head up. Actually, your coach was right. So rather than criticize the coach and join in and chime in on the negativity, try and find the reason. If it's constructive criticism, right, it's usually going to make your kid a better skater, a better player.
I'll tell you this. My father and my mother taught me a lot of lessons growing up, and I remember a lot of them. But I remember the ones that stood out or stung the most was when they would agree with the coach. We didn't skate hard enough today, right? And I remember in the moment that hurt, but I remembered it.
Yeah. And you want your parent to side with you. This coach is picking on me. He doesn't see what a great player I am. Well, no, you really kind of stunk up the ice today, to be honest.
Right. I think to Christie's point earlier about coaches telling her that she has coachable children and I'm sure your kids' teachers felt the same way. They probably felt like, oh wow, your daughter's in class. She really loves to learn. She really loves to be here. She respects the learning process. But so that goes across all planes. If you could tell as a parent, as a child is speaking to you, or as a coach, how a child is speaking to you, if that is coming from the kid or coming from the car. Right. And, or coming from the dinner table, or coming from, other resources that you're around your children 95% of the time. The coach only has them for that little period. And you need to know, listen, either I'm supporting the coach here and I'm going to allow my son or daughter to fail, but I'm going to coach them, because that's our job as parents. I'm going to coach them to be coachable. Right. And then when there's conflict, I'm going to teach them conflict resolution and how to get through all that. But I think that just goes back to who you are, Christie, based off of how you're getting the results from your kids, is that you obviously weren't somebody in the car bashing the coach and program.
I think it's also important.
You don't want to undermine the coach, especially when their criticism is being constructive and helpful.
Absolutely. And it's important to mention too, Chris, that you said, you spoke with your kids, a couple quick tips for parents out there. This can be very dangerous to your relationship with your kids. In my home, All right. We I don't want to say force, but we have family dinners every night. We sit around the dinner table, we talk, we do things. We try not to be on our phones. We're very conscious of like family time, right? Don't underestimate as a parent how important that is to your kids. And like Mike just said, you know, the coach is with your kid a fraction of the time. It's a little bit lofty to think that someone who's with your kid an hour or an hour and a half, or maybe 3 to 5 hours a week is the problem all the time, right? Like that's a fraction of the week. But going back to failure, another great tip for parents. This is a little bit of a hard one and takes a little bit to get used to. I ask my kids every night, what did you fail at today? I picked up this tip from a CEO. I can't remember her name, but that's what her father did, and I've adopted it. What did you fail at today? If you do it in a positive way, you're teaching your kids, I want to know what you didn't do well today so we can find a way to get better at it. We're ridding them of a fear of failure. And it's not an easy question to ask, and it's not easy to watch your kids squirm and look for an answer, but better now when he's 6, 7, 8 than when he's 30, 40, 50, which is something that, you know, a fear of failure is a thing that follows most people around their entire lives. If you can break that early, that will create a coachable kid. The other thing too is I think it's really important to create a clear distinction between earning something and being given something. I think this is a major trait of being coachable, is kids knowing that they have to earn it. It's not just something you get. Especially when it comes to skill sets, right? Like a lot of kids, well, I just want to be able to do this. Well, you have to earn it. You have to work at it. You have to earn your ice time, right? And if you work hard at it, you'll get it. And again, this starts in the home, right? We're very conscious, and I'm sure you two are as well, that a lot of parents out there, if you want to get the video game, if you want to get this reward, these are the things you have to do to get it. These are the steps you have to take to get to your destination. Start that early. Start that early in your house, right? And don't suppress intrigue, and again, I'm going to let you guys comment on this in a second. A lot of times my son asks me all the time, hey, can I tell you something? And I say, always tell me something as long as I'm in the environment to listen, right? If I'm working, now's not the best time, but I want you to tell me something. Allow them to learn to ask questions. A lot of times I see parents go, no, not right now. Go away. Right. And don't get me wrong. We all get there. I'm not impervious to that either. I've been there myself. All right. But I want my kid to be inquisitive. I want my kids to ask questions because that's how you learn, through failure and asking questions. So we're talking about a coachable kid, right? You want the kid to ask a lot of questions. How do I do this? How do I do that? You want them to know how to learn. So I'll go to Christie first and then Mike, with those things, right? Earning something. Don't suppress intrigue. Have a learning environment, right? These are really important things in the home that parents can evolve in their children to make them more coachable.
Right. And, it's not easy to receive criticism in any area of your life, at school, at the job, on the ice. But if you learn how to do that early in life, accept it, welcome it, figure out how to, translate that into becoming a better person, better skater, better at school, it's going to benefit you throughout your life in many areas. And I think we can all attest to that. I mean, I don't like to receive criticism. I get it all the time as a news anchor. People don't like the way my hair looks today. They don't like the outfit I'm wearing. They don't like the. But you kind of use, okay, well, maybe I didn't take as much time that I should have. Okay, I accept it. And then you kind of compartmentalize it too. I mean, what you take the elements that are important that you can learn from, and then you kind of toss the rest out, But those are great lessons that they can learn right there on the ice at hockey. You're thinking, well, geez, isn't that coach being awfully tough on my kid? You may be looking at it through that little window of yours, but look at the bigger picture of what they're actually learning. And if you do feel that the coach has gone a little too far, talk to them about it.
Right.
Like that parent did to you. Explain to them, when he's in the penalty box, you needed kind of a softer approach. Most coaches are willing to listen to you if you have a gripe about that, because every kid is different.
Well, coaches we want the guidance.
You can't get inside their heads, but they know what's inside their heads. So share that
at that
with
age. Yeah, I should say at that age, I want the guidance because I don't know these kids. As they get a little older, I would like a little less guidance as they get older, because the kids have to be able to communicate.
Of course.
But yeah, absolutely, 100%. And Christie, I want to again echo this thought. This is not so much coachable, but to create coachable environments, you have to communicate. right? So parents and coaches, there's a correct way to do it. We just did a show about the 24-hour rule. That still absolutely plays into effect before you do anything. But creating that environment where you can speak, help your kid, it's a lot better than yelling at the coach. You don't know anything about this. You don't know how my kid operates. You're a horrible coach. You think that's going to create a great environment for anyone? You think your kid's going to want to come to practice when he's thinking about that? So again, a lot of this is on the parents too. And Mike, before we jump to the next topic, I wanted to get your thoughts on this too about, as a coach, I love it when a kid asks me questions. When I was a skills development coach, I loved when a player came to me and said, hey, can you help me work on X, Y, Z, no matter how minute it was or how much time I had. I loved that as a coach. That's what I want to see.
Right. So, but you have to give those avenues for kids to go down, right? So as a coach, right. That communication obviously is key, but how are you communicating? I do a lot of video. I do a lot of sending kids little notes. Hey, last week I really loved what you did here. Keep trying that. Little things you can do as a coach when the kid makes a mistake and they come back to the bench. You can't just sit them for four periods.
I have to understand.
You say, get right back out there. Try it again. That was, if you would have done this 2 seconds quicker, it would have been a great play. But having that, you can say there's open communication, but then you have to actually live it. And you have to allow players and find the time. And parents need to do this too. Like one of the things, like I think, I bring to my kids is sometimes, and as a coach, I'm like, well, how is that coach allowing you to do that? Or why aren't they saying something to you? Or they should, you've really messed up here. You should be, and they're like, oh, well, I like the way that coach is dealing with me, because every coach gets to have an opportunity to deal with even the same kid in different sports and different avenues in a different way. And sometimes the kids are going to find, and you're going to find as a parent, wow, that coach really connected with my child. This coach didn't. And it's because of the way that communication went. And did it go two ways, one way, no way? And, and I think that's as a parent, you want to be able to coach your child to understand how different coaches communicate as well.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think this is fair. There's no right way. There's so many ways, but there is a wrong way. I can say that, right? You know what I mean by that? Because everybody's coached a little bit differently. And we're not talking about being soft or hard on a kid. It's that every kid needs to be coached a certain way to become coachable. That's definitely going to transition us into the kind of largest one, which is ways players can become coachable, right? Because again, this is not just a one-way road where it's a kid is automatically coachable because the coach is really good. Kids need to become coachable. So this last section is more or less tips that if you're a player, you can listen to, but if you're a parent or a coach, you can share this. You can share this with your team. You can share this with your players, because communication is inevitably ultimately important in any environment. If you want to create a coachable learning environment, you have to establish it. I was going to tell a story for this section to start. And then we're going to go into 8 traits of coachable kids, which is a USA Hockey staple. And I know Christie's got a magazine to share, and I get some fun stuff with that too. But, there you go. I was a kid I was very coachable in some environments and not coachable in other environments. So as many of you could probably guess, I talked a lot. I was very energetic as a kid. I was also very opinionated. And if I wanted something, I wanted something, right? How many of you have heard something like that? And what I mean by that is I wasn't spoiled, but I usually didn't stand down. If I felt something, I was going to pursue it. The coaches that really stood out to me were the ones that took the time to sit me down and say, Lee, I know you want this. All right, but let me explain to you how this works and why it works this way. And I still might have been headstrong, but they were patient with me in that environment. Okay. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I needed to learn how to do that. And those coaches provided that for me, because I was not always, and I blame myself, I was not always the most coachable kid. There were environments where I would get very emotional and very headstrong, and I knew what I was doing was right, and I didn't understand the decisions they were making. And if a coach didn't like that and they just kind of butted heads with me, it didn't help, right? And again, some of that's on me, but some of it's on my coaching staffs at those times. I remember thinking that person didn't know how to coach my attitude. Half on me, half on them, in my opinion. I'm taking the accountability. I hope that's coming across. Right. But that's my point, is I was willing to be coachable. I loved being taught, but I needed, as Mike, you said earlier, and Christy, you too, I liked the attention of knowing they cared. And sometimes that didn't come across the right way. Right. So that's just a story. And again, 2 ways. I could have listened more. I could have evolved my thinking. I could have opened my mind more. I had to learn how to do that. Go ahead, Mike.
So Lee, but how many stories have you heard from adults that said, I hated that guy? Like, right. That coach was, and then they end up coaching that way.
Right.
Like they just,
right.
they just said, that was I, at the time when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, I had no interest in listening to that coach. I had
Right.
no interest in thinking that coach knew what he was talking about. And now that I'm a parent, I'm like, wow, I can't
I
believe.
sound just like that coach, right?
And I like I said, it's really one of the reasons I love having older, like junior players, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds come and coach with me at the 8U and 9U and 10U level, is because they get to see the eye rolls and the communication and I can't believe this kid's not listening to me. Well, make it more fun,
Right.
whatever it is. But we all can reflect back on the good and the bad. Hopefully we replicate the good,
Right. And learn from the bad.
But a lot of us went through, I was the same way. There were certain coaches that I would butt heads with. And now I look back and say, wow, that was a really great experience. And it really molded me to be the player I was because of the way that coach was able to, connect with me. Maybe not at 13 with the way I liked it, but just to your guys' point, sometimes there's harsh realities here, and we have to be honest with the kids.
Right. And sometimes I think parents, you got to be strict with your kids. I mean, if your kids are throwing antics on the ice, if the coach is telling them something they don't like and they're throwing a stick down, or they storm off the ice, or if they're trying to get you to pull back because they need you to pass and you're not passing, you're dominating the game, you're not listening because you think you know how to win the game other than the coaches. You need to pull your kid off the ice. I'm serious. Right. You tell them you're done. Until you change your attitude, you're not going to skate again. You're done. And I think parents are afraid to do that.
And they should.
They'll learn fast. Trust me.
Well, Christie,
you have to be.
Can I just add one thing, just from a coaching perspective and my experience, that there's too many parents out there that want you to be the disciplinarian.
Right.
They're like, hey, Mike, you've got to rope this kid in. You could do whatever you need to do. I'm like, well, I see him on Thursday nights at 7:00. I said, why don't you do something? So I think that's where, Christie, to your point, we all wish there were more parents that said, oh, this is just going down the wrong path. But if a kid is throwing a stick or gets in a hissy fit or loses their mind on the ice, that usually doesn't happen like in a just in a vacuum. There's things leading up to that, and we all have to work together to make sure we can make a coachable player because of the way we can all work together. It's a triangle of
it is a triangle.
Support.
You're right. Right. But parents, you can play a huge role here, especially when it comes to behavior on the ice.
I'll take it a step further.
Yeah.
I'll take it a step further for both of you. This is a fundamental truth. You can't go to the gym once a month and get ripped. It's a daily thing. You got to go every day, right? So when it comes to a kid's behavior, you can't go to practice twice a week and expect them to come home disciplined. It's 2 to 3 hours of the week. It's something you all have to practice all the time. So I'd go as far to say, and again, not to be a scapegoat for coaches here, but this is far more on the parents than it is the coaches in terms of creating the environment where this continues. And Christie, again, you've said it earlier, parents run the risk of falling into this trap of commiserating with their kids. Like, oh yeah, coach was really hard on me today. Yeah, he was. Let's go get some ice cream. No, you don't reward them.
No, you're right. Let's get out of this program. Let's go to another program.
Right. Yeah.
And then you go to that program, like, man, these coaches stink too. Where you're going. And I saw that all the time. Like even me from a small area where I was having the same kids that coached lacrosse, soccer, baseball. And I would always get a lot of remarks that, well, how come the kids are so, disciplined and listen to you on the field in lacrosse and in soccer, they pretty much run the show. And it's because it's just the way you're going to approach them. But to Lee's point, you can't win that battle if you're seeing them 2 hours a week. It has to be a combined effort. And, and sometimes, I think as the kids get older, and Lee can attest to this, when we talk about traits of a coachable athlete and a player, that becomes more and more and more important as the intangibles of why you pick kids on teams become front and center as to why you make a team when you're 17, 18 years old.
Look, I can tell you that starts at probably the old bantam midget levels, and it gets even more important at the pro levels. And I can tell you this right now, for those of you listening at home, at the pro level, I do want the most talented athletes. That's 30% of what I'm looking for, because as you get higher and higher in the pro ranks, Sidney Crosby's, Connor McDavid's, they are very rare. Okay. The truth is, most players at the pro level are around the same skill set. You're talking about a variance of 0.05% per player in terms of skill.
Right.
So what you look for is character. You look for people that are coachable. You look for people that can be part of a team. Again, if you're aspiring for your kid to make it to the next level, even in college, right, you're looking for the right mix that's going to create a winning environment. And I can tell you this right now, talented teams that don't have that don't win. They just don't. I've never seen it happen. I say this all the time when I'm doing my public speaking. I've never been a part of a team. I've never coached a team. And I'm sure with my kids, I'll never see a team where they win the big games and they win all the time. And everybody goes, man, I really hate everybody on this team, but we did it. No one ever says that. If you think about every championship or winning moment in your life, there was some level of camaraderie there that existed, because it's impossible not. Christie, you work in television news. It's a team, right? You're the one on camera, but it doesn't work if the camera operator, the director, and the producer, and the CG person, and everybody all have to work together. And I'm sure you've had experiences where that didn't happen in the broadcasts, where they suffered because of it.
Oh, it fails miserably. And I always start, whenever I address anybody, email-wise, the chain, it's always, hi, team. Hello, team.
I love it.
I always begin my email that way, because that's the way it is.
Right.
We really are a team.
So
it takes every single one of us. And if one link is broken, we look bad on TV.
It's the weakest link. It's the weakest link proposed. And again, I think that's important to know, that a team is also a very important trait of being coachable. That's a whole other topic for another day. But we wanted to end the show on this. These are 8 traits of coachable kids. Now, we waited to the end to do this because we wanted to make it very apparent that parents, players, and coaches all play a role in allowing these things to be present, right? You can tell your kids, as a coach or a parent, till they're blue in the face, you need to do this, all these traits, but the truth is you got to work at them, right? Again, I'm going to group them together because I want to comment that some of them go together. The first 3, good eye contact. Number 1, being front and center and sitting still. Those are the first 3, eye contact, front and center, and sitting still, right? These are traits that are learned through time. If you're a parent, when your kid's in trouble, how often do you say, look me in the eye when you speak to me? It's a very important thing to do. If your kid's doing this kind of thing, like that, look me in the eye. It's very hard for them. Teach them to do that early. Be front and center. I'm speaking. Stand tall and look at me. This isn't just punishment, obviously, right? Sit still. Very hard when they're young. All right. But you can explain to them, every time you're moving, you're being distracted. And when you're distracted, you're not listening. And I have to tell you this again. Do you want me to keep telling you this? Stand up straight. Look me in the eye. Sorry, I've had a lot of these conversations in my house recently, if you can't tell. All right.
Yeah, this is a topic near and dear to your heart.
Right.
Huh?
Right. Yeah, I might be venting a little bit as a parent right now. We don't know. But Christie,
this is exactly how I train my lab. So it's basically the traits are the same. It doesn't matter where you're at. Sit, look me in the eye, relax.
Yeah. Here's a treat.
Right. And I think that you also have to make sure your kids know to show respect.
Right.
Be
Absolutely.
respectful. And all of those traits are important traits to have for the rest of their life. And if you ask any coach, if your kid is respectful, it shows in many areas, on the ice, off the ice. And they're going to go right up to the top of that coach's list as one of their favorite players by being respectful. That is so important. And that means, like, when the coach is talking, you get down on one knee as a team, and you look up and you listen, focus, pay attention, show respect, be quiet, don't be rolling your eyes, pouting, when they say something you don't like. That's an important part of just having that camaraderie too, because if you're all on the same page, you're all going to feel good about what you're doing, not only on the ice, but off the ice too.
Absolutely. And I got to mention here too, coaches, you do play a small role in this. Make sure that when you're addressing your team, it's something worthy of their attention, right? I've had coaches in the past. I'll never forget this. When I was in college one year, we had a coaching change. And for the first 15 minutes of practice, I'm not kidding. The first 15 minutes of practice, the coach would tell us about his day and how hard it is out there and how tough real life is. And again, I understood kind of where he was coming from. He was trying to prepare us a little bit. I didn't care when I was 19 years old. I wanted to practice. I wanted to play. I wanted to enjoy college life, right? I don't care about how hard it is out there. That wasn't a message that was conducive to the practice, right? And it always failed miserably. None of us wanted to hear it. right? So what did we start doing? It started looking around.
Know your environment, right? If you're going to speak to an 8-year-old on the ice,
right,
it might probably you're going to fail. I mean, you're just make it. It's got to be like 4 seconds, and they even do a drill, right? If the kid is 8, the drill is 8 minutes. If the kid is 6, it's 6 minutes.
Right.
Just, but I think that those 3 points of an eye contact,
right,
and I've seen in the last, let's say, 10 years, the inability for children to look you in the eye,
right,
because of their phones and their iPads, and they're coming from a different environment. I don't think I ever was able or allowed to meet somebody without looking in the eye, shaking their hand like a real shake, and then getting that response back that, okay, we're connected. Right. And maybe we're fist bumping now, but you have to establish that contact. And for children, and this goes back to Lee's point with the kids or the parents, we need to help train our kids that, hey, you know what's going to be great with this coach? Look him in the eye or her in the eye, pay attention, be engaged. And you could say that with an 8-year-old because they do it in school. And if your kids are, if they're not sitting on their mat, right, they have to sit on their hands or something, right? They stay still, listen. But you also coach have to make it engaging enough where they don't want to go in another world either.
I think it's also...
and tell your kids that, you're not perfect. No one is perfect. And back to what Lee was saying, it's okay to fail. And if this coach is telling you to get better at something, it's just because he cares enough to push you.
Right. Well, and Christie, it's a great point too, is I think something else you can say to your kids is to remind them, like, look, how lucky are we this person's volunteering their time, right? This person works at, again, you don't have to go into the life, but like, we're lucky this person wants to teach you. How exciting is that? And remember, my son, I'm not the head coach on this team, right? My son loves the head coach, and I'm there. I'm on the ice, and I'm his dad. He knows who I am. I'm an authority figure. He knows what I've done in the game. He loves his coach. We wanted that environment, right? I'm not the only person out here, right? So those 3, eye contact, front and center, sitting still, very important starting at an early age. The next 2 work together, again, which is asking questions and asking for advice. This goes back to something we said about being inquisitive as a kid. Kids, players, don't ever be afraid to ask a coach a question and ask for advice. That is literally why we're there, right? Mike, I'm going to turn to you on this one. That's literally why we're there. I love when a kid wants to learn. You want to talk about coachable? If you're coming to me with a question that I can help you with, you're very coachable to me at that point, right, Mike?
Yeah, coaches, don't stifle that.
Don't
dismiss a player that wants to ask questions. Don't dismiss a player that feels that maybe there's a different way. Right, because we have to, the old story of Bill Parcells, right, working with his teams, and Lawrence Taylor always never doing the scheme and the formation that he wanted, and every time he's like, but he goes, well, I'm still winning here. I keep sacking quarterbacks. He goes, okay, well maybe we have to change the scheme then because of this individual person. If you have players, especially at the teenage levels. But even the little kids, if you see a player, I was joking around in a coaching clinic the other night that sometimes we'll do a drill, and the kids, because I didn't explain it properly, will go out and do something completely different. But it looks good. I'm like, well, actually, that's pretty good. So let it go. Let's not.
Exactly. It's not about you.
Yeah, you got it.
They're actually this kid outthought the drill a little bit because he's like. So allow players to be inquisitive. You've got to allow them to open up the door to talk. But you have to do that as a coach. You have to make sure, you have to be able to make sure there's a way for that player to communicate with you. Right. Don't dismiss them, and genuinely take it in, and then respond to it. And
don't underestimate creativity, right? For any age group. One of the things that the higher levels we do is, and this is an understanding. And Mike, you just alluded to this. It's not my way or the highway. That coaching style rarely works. The way we did it when we were coaching was that, listen, we have these constructs. We have these rules. This is the system we want to play. This is how we want to play a forecheck, right? This is where we want our team to be. But I want you to be creative within that system, right? If you find a better way of doing something with that system, tell me about it. The players loved that because then they weren't playing under fear of messing up all the time, right? This works in different ways at every age group. Mike, you just said it at the youth level. The kids found a new way to do a drill, right? That's great news.
They screwed it up.
Right.
But I was like, wow, that's pretty good. I like
You didn't blow the whistle. You didn't say, stop that. That's not what I said to do. Blah, 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 blah. Like, what are you doing? Open your mind up to those types of creative things, right?
But I would have. 20 years ago, I would have.
Right.
My head would have exploded.
It's a great point. Listen, there's a great saying I always use when I'm teaching coaches. It's good coaches think they know everything. Great coaches know they know nothing, right? And the more you coach, the more you realize there is no way to do it. There's aspects of it that you can rely on, right? I was really proud of my kid. I'm going to gush here for a little bit. But my son came up to me the other day and he says, Daddy. I said, yeah. He's like, I have a drill that I'd like the team to do today. Right. So I didn't say, no, you're not the coach. I said, okay, tell me the drill. And he came up with a very simple but very doable drill that made sense in everything that we were doing. It was a little bit of a change from a drill that I was doing. I said, you know what, Logan, we're going to do this drill today because you came up with it. I didn't brag to the team like my son came up with this drill. No, I just added the drill into practice. The team did it. He felt completely, justified. He's like, hey, man, I coached today. You know what I mean? I don't know where he's getting the mindset that maybe I want to be a coach one day. I don't know where he would be getting that from, right? But like, I didn't stifle that, right? Now, to be fair, if it was a bad idea or it wasn't great, I'd say, well, let's sit down and work on it. Maybe we can figure something out. I want you to be creative. The fact that my 6-year-old, and I am gushing here, parents, I'm not trying to hide that. It's promising to me that he's thinking of new drills to do because I'm excited to see how that will manifest itself later in his life, not just in hockey, right? Because he's being creative thinking to learn something. That's pretty cool to see, right? And I can hear people saying, just wait till he's a teenager and he hates you, right? He might, right? But maybe he'll have a life skill there they didn't have before, right? So, Christy, did you want to add on this before I keep moving?
It just reminded me of this one. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. So we had a kid who was a hot dog, he knew everything type of a kid. It was terrible at practice and tried to lead all the practices and had a lot of antics. And the coach was so fed up with him. He says, okay, you know what, Brian, you're going to lead the drill. You're going to coach today.
Love it.
And it was horrible.
Right.
None of the kids were listening to him. None of the kids respected him. They were throwing their sticks all over, horsing around, and he was so frustrated. So he got a little taste of his own medicine. Boy, that was a good lesson for him.
You should write a book about that, Christy.
That could be the next series.
What's that? Oh my God! Look at that! That just moved by the screen there. I don't know.
Yeah. So it was a great. Okay, come on up here. I'm going to put you in my shoes and see what it's like. That changed all the kids' attitudes.
My 12U teams every year, I always have the kids give me drills. I would say, listen, I need you to give me your 3 favorite drills.
That's awesome.
It's going to be our drill bank. We're going to name it whatever you want. You want to name the drill, as long as it's appropriate, you could name it and you could see they're thinking cerebral, like, because I try to get them to think like, just your son's probably thinking, I'm building a drill that looks kind of like the game.
Right.
And, there's something we're doing wrong and I think I can fix it. Well, here it is. And I think it's, give our kids a lot more credit for that and let them allow that communication to happen.
Yeah. I when I was coaching college, I came up with a lot of my own drills. I made up my own drills and I would always send out a kind of a questionnaire at the end of the season where I'd interview the kids one-on-one and say, what was your favorite drills this year? What drills didn't you like? I want to know. And I'll tell you what, the next year they were always very accountable in the drills they liked. I remember I wanted to create a drill that created the urgency of the end of a game, like when you're 1 goal down or tied. So I looked at football's 2-minute drill and I made hockey's 1-minute drill. And you had 60 seconds and you had an objective and you had to accomplish it. It created a lot of urgency and they loved it. But I didn't know they loved it during the season, after the season.
Yeah. I think it's great when coaches give the kids some responsibility.
You have
to. Hey, I want to hear your input. I want to hear what you think. What can we do better? And and a lot of times the kids can get really creative and then they feel some ownership too. And that helps build their coachability.
I'll tell you a fundamental.
I get what you're talking about, Coach. Yeah,
right.
It makes a difference. Yeah.
I will tell you a fundamental thing that a lot of coaches forget, and I get it. I do get this to a point, but this is something that coaches always, in my mind, need to be reminded of. We don't play the games. The kids play the games. And trust me, when I was younger, that was really, really hard because I was still young and athletic and I could get out there. Right. We don't play. You have to create the environment for them where they're going to be able to do that in the game. Be accountable. Like you just said, Christy,
Yeah.
think outside the box, find new ways to do things, and don't fear failure. We're going to get into the final few here. Okay. Group of two here, the next two. So just to review: eye contact, front and center, sitting still, asking questions, asking for advice. The next two: leadership and being a good teammate. I've got a great tip for coaches here. Great tip. Do not enable the most skilled player on the team. Enable the hardest worker on your team. Hopefully the skilled player is the hardest worker, to be fair. But when you enable an uncoachable kid or a hot dog, Christy, as you just said, when you enable that kid, you're telling the rest of the team that that's your bar for success. So enable the hardest worker on your team. That's a leader, right? Being a good teammate. Enable those kids at practice, because it lets everybody know this is the standard that I judge our team on. It's not just skill. Doesn't mean you don't reward skill, okay? But you don't enable the snotty kid with all the skill. You're going to have a hard time with that, right? So being a good leader, explaining to kids what leadership is. Leadership is not always having a C on your chest. It's not always having an A on your chest. And being the leader, leadership and being a good teammate go hand in hand for me, right? Because you can't be a good leader if you don't have anybody to lead, right? Lead from the front, lead by example. It's one of the greatest traits that's undersold in the game. Christy, I'll start with you on this one because I think both your kids are leaders, right? They're both great teammates. How important are these traits for being coachable?
They're everything. They make such a difference.
Right.
And it can be infectious too.
Absolutely.
Which can bring a team that may be struggling during the season to keep them all together.
Right.
And that's so important because it's easy to dissent when you're failing and you're losing and things aren't going your way. But if you got that core that's always positive, that can always kind of, keep pushing and keep saying, hey, let's not look at that. Let's look at what we've accomplished so far, where we've come, because you're always going to improve.
Right.
During the season, you need to look at those improvements. It could be just a case of you're playing teams that are a lot harder as you go on in the season. You're not winning as much, but hey, you're playing tougher teams and you're holding your own.
Right.
That's pretty good. So you always got to look at where you've come along, and a lot of times the kids with those positive attitudes are the ones that are going to help you make it through and help your kids see the value in playing together as a team.
Right.
Also, I just wanted to plug, don't forget my article.
Yes. There you go.
January 2020. This was how to be a coachable kid. Lots of great tips there. So if you look back to,
better time before yes, January 2020, which was 600 years ago. When that happened. Mike, I want to throw this to you too. And I want to ask you this as a coach, right? I brought up captaincy and letters on a jersey, right? And I want to know, what is your process for doing that? Because there's a lot of different processes. Sometimes it's the coach's kid. Sometimes it's the most talented player on the team. Sometimes it's seniority. I've been on teams where the C and the A's move around. Different kids wear them. They spread the responsibility. When it comes to leadership, especially in hockey, because hockey's a sport where those letters probably have a little more significance than maybe other sports. How do you approach that as a coach?
Yeah, so I've evolved. So I think I've got evolved from, hey, this is the best kid. He's the captain, obviously, and put him on. Let's get him to see. Let's get him that responsibility. We're not talking. I'm talking pretty much 16U. Younger kid that are getting driven to the practices or games by their parents. They have no control over a lot of their environment, and the idea that our job, I think, in my opinion, of working with these youth players is to empower all of these players to learn how to be leaders. Right. We can help teach that. So I think not giving a C or an A, but really providing the attributes of what we look for in leadership, and then being able to give kids different leadership roles at different times in the season, and letting them and then really, like to your point earlier, point that out, bring that out, say, hey, that was a great leadership thing. Like I've had goalies that I've had in the last couple of years, I've tended, like with our goaltenders, splitting games, or even last year I had kids changing on the fly, high-fiving each other in between shifts. I mean, being a good, accountable teammate you don't need to wear a C, you don't need to wear an A, but you do need leadership, right? And I think you can empower it as a coach to drag that out of kids. And also, one of the things I like about doing other activities with your players, and not just ice hockey, is you get to have players be able to be a leader in different environments. And we take the kids out for a hike, up a mountain, and maybe he's not the best player, but he's maybe a smarter kid. Like, oh, let's go up this trail and find this way to go. And this is a better way to do this. And all of a sudden the kid's like, oh, that's cool. Let's follow Johnny. And I think that enables other kids to be leaders too. So I think once you say to a 12-year-old, he's our leader, he's our captain, I'm not a big fan of that. I understand people like to do it. I just like to see our ability as coaches to develop 15, 16, 17 players to become leaders and really follow up on those attributes that they have to do that.
Right. And go ahead, Christie.
I got a show and tell. So Sophia won this award when she was in high school. They give awards at the end of the year. And it made me so proud. I'm going to read you what it says. It's all about everything we talked about. It's like what you hope and dream for your kid. A player who demonstrates great character in all aspects of her life, whether it be leading by example, showing the willingness to compete at a high level, staying physically fit, or always showing great sportsmanship. This person understands that team and community come before the individual. A humble person who would always bring honor to the program she's involved in.
I love that. That's phenomenal. Yeah. And congratulations to her whenever. I know that wasn't too long ago. That's a huge award. And it says a lot.
Yeah.
I love that they wrote it on the award too, what it is.
Yeah. What it means.
Right.
And that's this is folks, that's what it's all about.
Now, how about that? How does that make you feel as the parent?
I'm gonna cry.
I know, right? I can see it. I'm drawing that out of you. I'm a good interviewer.
I'm gonna cry.
Yeah. No, listen,
that
it's a
was
huge deal.
The best. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Well, it's a shared award, right? Because you raised her, and again, I know she earned it, but you raised her, and right. Like I said, I always share all my awards with my parents that are in that nature because nobody does it alone. And listen, one of the big keys of leadership, and kids listening, coaches listening, parents listening, tell this to your kids. One of the major things about being a great leader is knowing how to be led. At some point, all great leaders were led, right? And I think it's a trait that people need to learn, right? And then being a good teammate, right? It's part of it. Being a leader, having that C on your chest does not mean you're the guy or the girl. It means you are the leader of these people. You work for them. That's why I always say,
and we'll go full circle now. That is the definition of coachability.
There you go. That's a great way. I wish I could close it on that transition, but there's still one more trait left.
What?
Yes. There's still one more trait left. I'm going to wrap this in a minute, and I'll tell this one in a quick story form. All right. The last trait is to be early and be prepared. Now, if you've been watching the show, I don't have any problem giving doses of reality, right? But I'm going to do this one in a story, okay? So I noticed that every practice I was telling my son, we're going to be late. We're going to be late. We got to go. We're going to be late. Get dressed. Do this. My kid's 6. This is my fault completely. It's not his fault as a parent. He's not late because of himself, his inability to get dressed. He's late because I'm not getting him up early enough to get dressed, and I'm not getting him prepared early. I'm not teaching him how to be on time. How many of you out there have kids or kids yourself or young people yourself where you're always late to something, right? It's a habitual thing, right? If you're late once in a while, that's one thing, right? But usually this is something that's taught, right? You're doing things at the last minute. So again, I take the responsibility. And I remember thinking this. We were late 3 or 4 times. But by the way, by late, I mean we were there 5 minutes or 10 minutes before when we were supposed to be there, because that's late to me, right? Late to me is not actually showing up after the practice starts, being there not at the time that I'm supposed to be. And I took it upon myself, guys. I said, listen, they're late because I'm not getting the kids up early enough. It's on me. I need to teach him how to be on time, not the other way around, right? So, but be early, be prepared. I only told that story because I'm saying this is a two-way street when it comes to your kids, right? Make sure they're awake. Make sure they're doing things. Christie or Mike, if you just want to comment on that one.
Go ahead, Christie.
Well, it's all about showing respect too.
Right.
I always feel when people show up late and we have an appointment, that you are disrespecting me and that my time isn't valuable to you. It's a huge insult. So think of it that way.
Right. That's short and sweet and super powerful. Mike?
Yeah, and this is the bane of my existence is being late and not prepared. And it was funny, I shared a TikTok video with my 13-year-old the other day of a kid acting like his dad. Is your stuff in your car? Did you forget your gloves? Did you bring your skates? And that's me. I'm like, holy crap, that is me. I'm like, hey, is everything? Are you sure you have everything? We're going to leave. I'm pulling out of the driveway right now. If you don't have everything, I'm not coming back. And then, trying to be there. And to me, I think it was because of the way I was brought up. But if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late.
Right. I agree.
And,
with
so if I have practice at 6:00 and the coach tells me to be there at 5, I'm late if it's 4:40 or 4:50. So it's just a matter of, be early, be prepared. Christie talked about it. Forget about, how embarrassing it is to be late and holding everyone up. But if somebody is volunteering their time and going out there and working for you and jumping off the train.
And preparing, by the way.
Preparing for practice.
Preparedness goes into these things. It takes hours.
Right. Now, if you're the coach that just never is prepared and you're just winging it anyway, then it's almost like, it's gonna follow you, right? So if you're always late and you just allow the kids to be late and there's no repercussions from that, you get what you sow, right? But I think be early, be prepared. That is noticeable. Coaches notice it. Other parents notice it. Recruiters notice it. And they see that you're not the kid that always has to wear the backup jersey because you forgot yours. You always have your neck guard and your mouth guard. You're prepared to play. And a coachable kid to me is that kid that starts to take that responsibility on their own. And you're right, Lee. If your 6-year-old's late every day, it's not your 6-year-old.
That's on you.
It's on me.
That's on you. And also, ice time's valuable too.
Right.
You've just got a slot of time where you can get everything done. And if you've got kids showing up late, you're not going to accomplish the mission of, doing those drills that you want to practice or getting that ice time in.
It's like in our Zoom world. It's in our Zoom world right now, right? That you get on it. Who's joining the call? Are you coming in now? Who just joined the call? And that's how I feel at practice. I got a practice going on. All of a sudden this kid strolls in. I'm like, wait a minute. You're not even part of the practice plan here.
Yeah.
I already have the practices going and you're messing. And now the whole flow, everything.
Right.
Up. And again, to Lee's point, if it happens here and there, there's traffic, there's this,
right.
But if it's habitual, then you as a coach need to say something and make sure you've established that. But that's where that triangulation of the parents coming into this and saying, how can we help? Be early, be prepared, help me so the rest of the class, the rest of my team, the rest of the session can go off the way I had it planned.
And I'll always do this. I'll take it a step further. This is a major life skill as well. It doesn't just limit itself to hockey. If you show up late to an interview at my business, you're not getting the job. All right. If you show up late to class, you're going to lose some points. All right. It's a habitual thing that is learned. This is a learned trait. People, parents, coaches, kids, if you're hearing me. So let's just review those all one more time. The 8 traits of coachable kids from USA Hockey: eye contact, being front and center, sitting still, asking questions, asking for advice, leadership, being a good teammate, being early, and being prepared. That is the encompassment of being coachable. And I hope we discussed on this show and this episode enough that it is a shared responsibility between coaches, players, and parents to create a coachable environment and a coachable person, right? Anything else from you two before we jump off?
Yeah, don't forget the other important trait, RESPECT.
You must sing the whole song now. Go.
Oh, a little bit. We don't want
a little bit. There you go. I'll do that.
We don't want to lose our audience.
Oh no, if they're listening to this part, we haven't lost them. That's the key. We lost them 30 minutes ago if we lost them. So that's going to do it for another great episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. For Christie Casciano-Burns and Mike Benelli, I'm Lee Elias. Make sure that you follow us wherever podcasts are heard. You can visit our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com, or you can find us on Facebook at, you guessed it, Our Kids Play Hockey. Join our group. We want to hear from you. That's where we can interact with all the parents, and you can see these live videos if you're listening to this of these podcasts. Once again, thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful evening, afternoon, or morning, whenever you're listening to this, and we'll talk to you next time.